What if gravity turned off for 1 second? It would start so quickly, most people wouldn't have time to scream. At 14 hours, 32 minutes, and 8 seconds GMT, all across the planet, a sudden and incomprehensible shift occurs in the very fabric of reality. Not an earthquake, not an explosion. Something more fundamental: gravity, the invisible force that anchors oceans, sculpts planets, and allows you to sit, stand, walk, or breathe without floating away, disappears. For exactly 1 second, it is gone. The cause, unknown. Maybe a localized fluctuation in the Higgs field. Maybe a quantum anomaly in the graviton, assuming it exists. Maybe a passing high-mass object warped spacetime in some currently unobservable way. But whatever the cause, the effect is universal and instantaneous. For the first few milliseconds, nothing seems wrong. Objects are still in place, and inertia holds firm. But then reality starts to shift. Coffee cups rise from tables, suspended in midair as if time hiccuped. Babies in cribs float upward, blankets peeling away like clouds. Massive passenger jets suddenly lurch skyward, pilots fighting controls that no longer respond to downward force. Trains lift from tracks, bicycles wobble into the air. In high-rise buildings, paper, pens, and people lift off floors, momentarily caught in weightless ballet. The oceans bulge, not explode. The change is too short, but they rise, as if startled. A wall of water begins to build, lifting like a gelatinous dome from the sea surface. Then gravity returns. And everything falls. In physics terms, all objects under the influence of gravity experience a constant acceleration to 9.8 meters per second squared. In the absence of gravity, every object continues on its last trajectory, unimpeded by any force pulling it downward. So for 1 second, everyone and everything moves in a straight line, tangent to the curve of the Earth, or directly away from it. The equator takes the worst of it. Earth rotates fastest at this middle point, about 1,670 kilometers per hour. Gravity keeps us from flying off like mud from a spinning tire. Remove gravity, and for 1 second, that centrifugal force is unopposed. Objects and people in Ecuador, Kenya, or Singapore would be launched laterally with alarming speed, creating strange arcs of flight across the landscape before crashing down. Depending on your mass, speed, and location, your body could move tens of meters before hitting the ground again. Airplanes, they don't fall, they float upward briefly, then gravity reasserts itself, yanking them toward the Earth with unpredictable trajectories. Mid-air collisions become likely. Pilots black out. Passengers scream. Some aircraft lose structural integrity from the sudden gravitational whiplash and break apart in midair. Cities suffer bizarre damage. Buildings, no longer compressed downward for 1 second, expand microscopically. Beams and concrete panels subtly shift. In skyscrapers, floors creak and shift like puzzle pieces suspended for a moment. Then gravity slams back, and thousands of tons of material groan in compression. Older structures collapse. Elevators drop. Bridges twist violently as tension cables realign. Infrastructure, built on the constant assumption of gravity, is overwhelmed by its absence and its violent return. At sea level, waves collapse onto coastal infrastructure, not necessarily from the water's height, but from its sheer unpredictability. Vessels capsize. Docks splinter. Water sloshes violently in every direction as atmospheric pressure tries to reestablish equilibrium. Meanwhile, satellites just above Earth's surface, in low orbit, are thrown slightly off their tracks. Nothing catastrophic, but the recalibrations take weeks. The International Space Station doesn't notice anything unusual. Gravity wasn't affecting it in the first place. But the astronauts, watching Earth through the viewport, report seeing something odd: a shimmer in the clouds, a strange ripple, and then dozens of high-altitude jets visibly stagger in their paths. The scientific community is thrown into frenzy. Gravity, one of the four fundamental forces, doesn't just disappear. Physicists scramble to determine whether the effect was local to Earth, or a broader cosmic event. Neutrino detectors, gravitational wave observatories, and dark matter labs around the world analyze terabytes of data. The LIGO instruments go silent for exactly 1 second, recording a flat line where they should have seen tiny tremors from distant black hole mergers. Public panic sets in by the end of the day. Conspiracy theories explode across social media. Some claim CERN turned off gravity by accident. Others insist it was a weapons test or a simulation glitch. Religious groups proclaim the end times. Political leaders, unprepared for something so completely outside any national security manual, deliver vague statements about unusual cosmic activity. A new branch of science emerges practically overnight: temporal gravitational anomalies. Funding pours in. Billionaires launch private missions to monitor gravity stability from the moon. A new generation of engineers, physicists, and philosophers begins to ask questions they never seriously considered before. What is gravity, really? Can it be controlled? What happens if it turns off again? But for 10 seconds? Meanwhile, in hospitals, repair crews, and quiet bedrooms around the world, people struggle with the strange trauma of feeling the absence of something they never even thought about. The feeling of weightlessness, not in joy, like in orbit, but in terror, without control, leaves a mark. Babies cry when lifted, uncertain of their place. Birds, confused by their brief loss of control, avoid open skies for days. Dogs hide under tables that they themselves floated above just hours ago. Yet the planet turns, life resumes, but in the back of everyone's mind, one thought lingers. Silent, unsettling, and awe-inspiring. For 1 second, gravity turned off. And we survived. Barely.